Hi everybody and welcome to soccermag.com. I'm with Dylan, Moneyball as I call him. How you Moneyball?
No, I'm good, thanks. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm Kevin Ferguson and we are into another week of soccer, or football as the British call it, sorry. Interesting week last week. I got 3 out of 10. My worst performing week, I would imagine.
I think so. Yeah, usually you've been averaging around
5.5.
Yeah.
So yeah. And me and you were tied for second. And Ollie's still two ahead. He's on a particularly funny number for him, 69.
Yeah.
And we were on 67.
7. Yeah.
Tight race.
Very tight.
Let's get straight into it. Arsenal versus Wolves. Arsenal, the Premier League table toppers. But we're coming around to that silly season, Christmas, you know. And Arsenal's familiar spot last year, and then reversed around the track to finish second. Do you see things playing out differently for them this year?
I think one thing we can say about Arsenal this year is that even though they're struggling with injuries in some areas, they are still getting wins and they're getting through games pretty well. I think last season near the end of it, they lost Saliba and they completely struggled to get through games. But defensively, they are a lot better this season. And I know some people have been saying that they're struggling to score goals. But as long as they just keep getting the 3 points, no one really cares about which game you won by 1 goal, you know. But
No.
I still think City, when De Bruyne comes back, I think just the beginning of next year, I think that's when it's going to change. I think City, they're still favourites for me.
Well, who are they when it says just they're having trouble scoring goals? They've still scored 27 of them.
Yeah.
Which would probably put them in the top 5. So everything's relative, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
I mean, they scored 6 last night against Lens. So,
who doesn't?
yeah.
So Arsenal Wolves. Now we were chatting off air about Wolves and their trials and tribulations with VAR. What do you make of that? They think they should have 22 points according to themselves.
Yeah. Well, they definitely got shafted against Fulham.
Yeah.
I think we've seen multiple times this season. I think the Premier League has already apologized 2 or 3 times to them. So it's like, you know, when you apologize once, you accept it. But it gets to the point where when does an apology mean nothing?
I think it does. Well, it means less than nothing because with the
you know, if Wolves they're doing well enough that I think they're on 15 points, so they're safe. They should be safe this season. But if they were in a relegation battle, like I'm wondering what the legal
ramifications
would be.
Well, that's the money involved in this league is astronomical, as we know, and like you say, it's like coming home and finding your wife in bed with a man. How many times can you take an apology before you go insane? You love my analogies, don't you?
No, they're good.
Yeah.
I think 3 times is a pretty. Give it 1 more. Yeah, then it's fine.
Yeah, clearly you've never had a wife that's been sleeping on you 3 times. And thank God I haven't either, but I can only imagine. So they've got mid-table. They're comfortable. And like I said, when they started the year in chaos, I pipped them to go down.
Yeah, I think I did too. They just their squad didn't look that great.
They hadn't improved it.
Yeah.
They lost players.
Didn't have a manager until like the last week of the transfer window.
Yeah.
And I think Gary O'Neill's done really well. I think he was fired at Bournemouth unfairly. I don't think he did badly. And now he's come to Wolves, and even though their results don't look great, I think we know that they're playing way better than we gave them credit for.
I would say that it's a fair comment to say they're punching above their weight. And like you say, if they'd had the 22 points, he'd probably be in the running for manager of the year.
Exactly. I mean, if Wolves were to end Europa League or thereabouts, that's an incredibly successful season for them, in general, let alone with the chaos they had before the start of the season.
Yeah, no, for sure. So that said, how do you fancy their chances against Arsenal?
I think Arsenal at home they're way too strong. I think Wolves will cause them problems, similar to the Brentford game where it won't necessarily be a walkover, but I think at the end of the day, Arsenal's squad is just better. They're playing at home. I'm going to go for 2-0 Arsenal.
Yeah, I like 2-0 as well. I don't think it'll be a blowout. Wolves certainly ask a lot of questions and punching above their weight. 2-0 for me, Arsenal. But it'll be a tough game.
Yeah. I could also see it being similar to the Spurs game with Wolves, or even City, where Arsenal have 70% of the ball, have way more chances, but then, the last 15, 20 minutes, Wolves just get something, and then it's like, okay, now what? 2 quick goals, or, a goal when they're not expected to get one.
At 3-10, do you think Arsenal are worthy of being in an accumulator? Or is that too low?
I don't know. It depends, I guess, who you put them with.
We pay you to know. Of course. Next up is Sheffield.
Isn't Sheffield Burnley?
Yeah, it is Sheffield, Burnley. Burnley versus Sheffield.
Burnley versus
Burnley
Sheffield.
at home. Well,
Battle of the bottom 2, basically. Or battle of the bottom 3.
yeah. It would be if Everton hadn't had 10 points deducted from them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're kind of right. Sheffield, both of them, I mean, Burnley, L.
That's all they have. Yeah. At least they're consistent.
They are very consistent, But something's happening there because they're in serious regression.
Yeah.
Sheffield, both of them, 23 goal difference, 22 goal difference. 10 goals for Burnley, 11 goals for Sheffield. It has the makings of a dire relegation game.
Yeah. I think if I look at they both teams desperately need the win, so it's not really like we can say that Burnley should come out firing. Both teams are going to come out firing because I think both of them know that this is the best chance that each of them have of a win.
Yeah, and collectively out of 26 games, they've only drawn 3 collectively.
Yeah. And I think they've won 1 each or something.
They have.
Yeah. So they
have won 1 each.
Result. If you could if there was a bet for both teams to lose, that would be really nice because that's what they do. But
you saying we could see our first double loss Premier League game ever?
I mean, it would be consistent with what we've seen.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna have to. I think the only reason I'm giving it to Burnley is because they're at home. Otherwise, I really don't see much. There's really not much difference. I think statistically, you just said one scored 1 more goal than the other, or one's conceded 1 less goal than the other. So they really are both terrible.
It should be a terrible game.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go for a 1-0 Burnley.
I'm gonna go for a 1-1.
1-1. Okay.
It's like you say. They're both equally bad.
Yeah.
Burnley are worse, but are at home, so it evens it out. So to me, I'm gonna go draw. 1-1. Next up is Brentford versus Luton. Very uninspiring game.
Yeah, I think Brentford should take this one, even though Luton they've definitely improved over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, 2 losses out of 5 games.
And their draw against Liverpool is really good. I would say their overall performance against Man United was impressive despite the fact they lost. I mean, to go to Old Trafford and only lose 1-0 for a team that we wrote off completely at the start of the season, I think is pretty impressive. But I still think Brentford, they just have too much firepower, and even though Luton have been difficult to break down, I just think Brentford will be too strong at home,
I can't disagree with that.
So I think I'm going to go 2-1 to Brentford. Give Luton a chance of a goal.
Yeah, I'm going to go 3-1.
Okay.
I think the Brentford are pretty good. They've won 3 out of the last 5.
Close to a good result against Arsenal as
well.
well.
1-0.
Yeah.
They did lose 3-0 to Liverpool, but
yeah.
At home they should. This is a game that they will target because they've only got 7 points as well. No, they haven't. Sorry, let me correct myself.
I think they're probably between the 12th.
They got 12 points.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no doubt who needs to win more, but this will take them up to 15. It's a game they will have targeted because they'll be in the relegation struggle. Both these teams will be all year. So 3-1 for me. Pretty simple.
It's a really strange thing because Brentford also started the season really well. I was looking at them as a team that wouldn't necessarily be in a relegation fight, but be pushing that like 12th to 9th region in the table where they're comfortable, but they're not going to push Europe. But they've kind of dropped off. They had a bit of a slump in the middle, but now they look like they're playing better.
Yeah, look,
So
for whatever that means. Forest, Everton. Two evenly matched teams if you add the 10 points to Everton.
yeah,
They had taken
and
away.
Everton's away form has been pretty good this season, relatively compared to last season.
I don't think anybody, including myself, expected much from Everton. But it seems almost, and these things can happen, where they've been galvanized by this 10-point deduction. It's us against the world sort of mentality that often can bring a team together and make them play a bit better. But Forest at home are a reasonable side.
They just lost to Brighton, but I think Brighton just had a really weird 6-7 week period where they just didn't win. But I think we all know that Brighton are one of the better teams in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So I also think that Nottingham Forest, their home form is really good.
Yep, it's not bad.
And Everton, the Everton versus Man United game, even though they lost 3-0, it was, the Garnacho wonder goal. Then I think it was a Rashford penalty. I don't think Everton were out of the game completely. They weren't completely dominated. Statistically, they were pretty close. They had a lot of shots. So they could be, I don't know. United seems to be one of those teams at the moment where they don't play well, but they're getting through it. So
they're only 6 points off first place.
Exactly. So I wouldn't say it was a bad result for Everton to lose to United.
Well, look, Liverpool were in free fall 5-6 matches ago. Now they've won 4 out of 5, and that takes some doing to it's about an 80% record over 5 games. So there's no disgrace in Everton losing to Man United, like you say. It was a bit flattering, the scoreline. But
I still think Forest might be a bit too strong. I
do as well. I fancy a 1-0 Forest victory.
I think Everton will score. I'm going to go for 2-1 Forest. Yeah.
Okay.
But Everton, I think this season, every week we haven't backed them. They've done something. So we'll see. Maybe Sean Dye shows them these videos every Friday evening.
Maybe. And then, to me, the game of the weekend, Newcastle versus Man United, up at 10 o'clock in the evening on a Saturday. So, I get to stay up late on weekends now. What do you think there?
I think, like we just mentioned, that United have been getting through games. They've been pretty low-key about their run of form. I think they have the best form in the Premier League, results-wise, as in accumulating points.
Who, the United?
Yeah.
Over what period?
I think it's like the past 6-7 games. They've got the best
I think the two,
form.
Just from memory, is you've got Liverpool and Man City. You've got 11. Yeah, because they've won. Yeah, you're right.
They've won 6 in a row or something like that.
Corrected.
I think they've won 6 or 5 in a row.
Yeah.
Which is very surprising because I think no one really thinks that United have been playing well. I think the narrative around Man United is that they aren't really a great team at the moment, but they're getting through games. And I think, in the Champions League last night, they threw away a 3-1 lead. But in the Premier League, they've been consistent, despite their poor performances. But Newcastle also, they completely destroyed Chelsea. And I know I wasn't really expecting that. I thought it would be a bit closer.
Especially with the injuries that Newcastle seem to have
their
accumulated.
squad is very thin at the moment. I think their centre-back pairing was when Steve Bruce was still there. That was the centre-back pairing they had, and I think they probably thought they were long past that.
Yeah.
I'm still going to give Newcastle this one, though, because they're at home.
Yeah.
I think my narrative this week is that the home sides, because it's so close most of the games, I'm going to have to give it to the home side. So I'm going to go 2-0 Newcastle.
I am going to go 2-1 Newcastle. Almost even money on them. It's not a bad bet. I'll wait and see the lineup because it's not out yet. And then we move on to Sunday. And we have straight up, not a bad game, Chelsea versus Brighton.
There's actually, I think, quite a few interesting games to watch as a neutral this weekend.
Yeah.
And that's definitely one of them. Brighton got a win, first win, I think, since they beat Man United, their first win in ages. They've gotten a lot of draws. Chelsea, they back in that unpredictable, that area where they kind of regained my trust against Tottenham and City. Then they threw it away against Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't trust either team 100% for a win. But I think I'm going to back Brighton because I feel like they're one of those teams that as soon as they get some sort of positive run of form, then they build on it.
Yep.
So,
Look, 33-10 on a Brighton victory at Chelsea.
Mm.
That's an interesting bet.
Because I don't think Chelsea's form at home, they're not one of those teams where you're like, okay, they're at home, Stamford Bridge is a fortress, like City or Liverpool or Arsenal. Their home form has been pretty bad, considering this season. I think they only got a couple wins in like over a year at home. So I'm going to go for a Brighton away win here, 2-1.
I'm going to have to differ with you. I just got a feeling that maybe the momentum is a little bit with Chelsea in terms of, their recent results, exception of Newcastle. And at home, toss a coin. I'm going to take the home. I'm going to take Chelsea 2-1.
Okay.
Then on to your team, Liverpool. Sorry. Liverpool, what can you say? Great game last weekend.
Yeah.
It really was an
Scraped
entertaining game.
Yeah. Very, I would say, I kind of went into the game last week thinking that I thought Liverpool would lose because the last time Liverpool played City at the Emirates, obviously it's a very different team.
3-0?
But they got, I think it was 4-0, 4-1 or something.
4, yeah.
So they got absolutely blown away.
Yeah.
And I would say for most of the game, City looked slightly off. They had a lot of the ball, but they weren't really creating serious, threatening chances. I think Haaland had the one header second half where he should have probably scored. It just went past the post. But I don't know, Liverpool just stuck in there. They were defensively, I thought they were really good. There was a lot of talk about Trent's performance. I thought he actually defended Doku pretty well. Because, Doku's been the best one-on-one dribbler in the league by far this season. And he really didn't create a lot of opportunities down that right-hand side. But I think Liverpool's big problem now is that Alisson is injured. And they're a completely different team without Alisson. Even though Alisson didn't play well against City, I think Alisson's out for potentially, they say, 3 weeks. And Kelleher, when he has played, has been pretty suspect. I think he's been playing mostly in the Europa League. And in previous seasons, I've been completely fine with Kelleher. I thought as a number 2, he's been unbelievable. But this season, there's just something that seems off about him.
You're such a millennial. Eh? It's like last year he's unbelievable. Now he's shit.
I'm not saying he's completely terrible, but there's just.
I think that saying he's suspect is probably worse than anything you could say about him.
I don't feel confident.
Yeah. I'm gathering that.
But I still think Liverpool will win the game. It's more just, I think that Kelleher has just looked a bit suspect, and I think the confidence that he brings to the defense is nowhere near what Alisson brings. So I'd be interested to see how Fulham target that, because you could just see Fulham throwing balls into the box with Jimenez for 90 minutes and just pushing Kelleher to make catches or punch the ball away. But I still think Liverpool should take this one. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Liverpool. Just interesting to see the battle, how Liverpool deal with Kelleher's lack of confidence, I think.
Yeah, look, Liverpool are an elite team, to say the least. And I'm not so down on Kelleher as someone that's my age. I'm a bit more calm when it comes to changing some of my opinion over the course of a year. But Fulham, not the same team as mostly Premier League teams are on the road. And tough place to go and play on a Sunday or a Saturday or Monday or any day that any week that ends with any weekday that ends with day. 3-1 Liverpool for me.
I think Liverpool's attack is just too powerful. It's just it'll take a lot to outscore Liverpool at Anfield. It's just that aspect.
Yeah, and these are the games, if you really want to contend for Liverpool, you got to win.
Yeah, exactly. No matter who's on the pitch, you have to send a message.
Absolutely. And hopefully they'll send a message. West Ham, Crystal Palace, a London derby. Probably the least appetizing London derby on the menu.
Fulham Palace isn't great either.
Well, it goes without saying, doesn't it? So it's probably the second most meaningless derby in London. But I just like, I like West Ham at home. Again, like you said earlier on, the home advantage. I like the even money bet, but I don't think it'll be a high scoring game. I'm going to go 1-0 West Ham.
I think 1-0 is good for West Ham as well. Like, their home form is really good. Palace have also started dropping off a bit. They're similar to Brentford. They started off the season really well, but they've just...
The Hodgson magic may be...
wearing out.
Maybe wearing out, yeah. Kind of like Cinderella. So in agreement there, Bournemouth versus Aston Villa. Another interesting game, actually. Yeah. Villa, to me, being the surprise team in the Premier League this year.
Definitely.
Without a shadow of a doubt. I'm going to like them to beat Bournemouth away, which is always a little risky with Aston Villa because they...
I think Bournemouth beat Newcastle 2 weeks ago, or just before the international break. So it's like...
Yeah.
Bournemouth, they're an interesting one. They get results, but also I just think for them to win 3 games in a row, but also 2 huge games against Newcastle and Villa, I think for them, like, they can't maintain a run like that, really. I think best case scenario for them is a draw, but still, I think Villa are in such great form, and I think they were away at Spurs last week, and they still got an away win, so they're playing well away from home. I think Villa should take this one.
I think so. I see goals in them. It's like they do score. 31 goals this year.
I think they could be potentially top scorers. Them and City, around about there. They're very close to being top scorers, I think.
They are. Newcastle's got 31 as well. But look, it's a big game now that they're in the mix. The Aston Villa fans in Birmingham will be like, maybe, just maybe. A long season left to play. But this is where they want to be. I mean, if you'd asked any Villa fan with 28 points after 13 games, and
that's really good.
That's rarefied.
More than 2 points a game.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane for Villa.
It is insane for Villa. Yeah. So 3-1 for me, Villa.
I'm going to go 2-1.
Okay.
I just think Villa will score, but Bournemouth, they just, something about them, I feel less confident than 3-1.
Gotcha. The final game before games on the 5th is Manchester City versus Tottenham. Now, normally I would be looking forward to this game in that it could be a tasty clash.
I think if this game happened 6 weeks ago... then it would be a completely different story.
Exactly right. And the 3-10 odds are the same on Arsenal beating Wolves, so that's how the bookies see it. And rightfully so. I think with the injuries, Maddison being still a key injury, they've lost 3 on the trot. I don't see that improving this weekend.
Neither.
I see 4 L's, and we did talk about this. We did talk about this scenario playing itself out. When we were looking at all the injuries that were happening to Tottenham. And they just don't have that depth.
No, I think the fact that, they've had 3, I think, Maddison, Romero's been suspended, Van de Ven's injured, but their defence is just nowhere near top 4 quality at all with Eric Dyer, Ben Davies. Pedro Porro's okay, Udogi's good, but it's like overall that's just, you can't be competing for top 4 if you compare them to the Arsenal, Liverpool, City, even Aston Villa. That defense is just nowhere near good enough.
Aston Villa are a better team than Tottenham right now, for sure. And then add that traveling to Manchester.
To City, I think the first game they haven't won in over 20 games at the Etihad was against Liverpool, and they drew.
Yeah.
So
Look,
even if they get a point, it'll be a shock.
there's chinks definitely in the Man City team. But the thing I'm backing on with them to win the Premier League is that the depth in squad. You know, all teams are going to go through these challenges, and you see with Tottenham now with a few key injuries, that if you had a few key injuries to Man City, they'd probably ride that wave better.
I mean, they haven't had De Bruyne since the first week of the season.
Yeah.
And
When's he back?
so they say he should be back sometime in January. So another month and a bit.
Yeah.
And once he's back, give him a month to get back into it.
If that.
Then Haaland's going to be scoring 10 a game again.
10 a game.
Yeah.
10 a penny.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. So to me, Man City, I see them cutting Tottenham to shreds this weekend. I'm going to go 4-0.
I'll go 3-0.
Yeah. So you see the same.
Yeah, I see the exact same thing. I just think 4 is a bit... The thing is also depends how stubborn Ange Postecoglu is, because we saw against Chelsea the high line that he played with defenders that cannot play in a high line. And I understand and I respect is like we play the same way no matter what. But it gets to a point where you can't just play people that can't run and make them play on the halfway line against extremely quick attackers. Because if City played Chelsea, if City played Spurs when Chelsea played Spurs, it would have been 8-1, because Mudryk, Jackson, Sterling, they aren't as clinical as the City attackers.
Yeah.
So if the same thing happens against City, it could get really messy.
Yeah, a 7-0 is not out of the question.
It could get really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go 4-0. You gone 3.
Yeah.
Some good selections there, some good betting prospects, and we'll do another show on Monday, I guess, for Tuesday. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers, bud.